Hello.
Hey, hi, Mary.
How you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Great, thank you.
Hello, Mary. This is Constance.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine.
Okay.
Let's see here. I should. Oh, here I just opened it. Yeah, okay. All right.
There you go.
Mary, just to tell you in terms of agenda,
Okay.
I'm going to discuss first a bit quick update from the year.
So
then we're going to go to some PPP updates, and then you'll go, the third part is yours. All
Okay. So on the PPP updates, are you talking at all about?
I totally understand.
Just forgiveness. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on.
Provider.
Hold on, Mary. Hold on. Mary, go ahead. I'm talking about forgiveness.
Okay. Because I just was talking about the 3.5 version, you know, for the provider relief.
Yep.
Do you need, should I not say anything about that? I didn't send slides for that. I have a couple of.
No, but anything. I mean, it's going to be a discussion. Anything.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's a possibility that Bob Kowalik might come on board to discuss the forgiveness, some aspects of the forgiveness part too. I have invited him, but let me.
But we still have a target for 1 hour, right?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. I love Bob, but he needs to know that.
Let me see here. I'm sure he does know that. Okay, let me see.
Now, are these just attendees or are these panelists that
Attendees,
Oh.
all attendees. It's not a webinar, it's a meeting. So that's why everybody has, can have their picture.
Perfect.
All right. Stand by, everybody. Give us a few more minutes. We will be starting in 3 minutes from now.
Hi, Dimitri. How are you doing?
Hi, Denise. How are you doing?
Good. Just signed up for your other thing on May 12th.
Oh, that will be a fun one. How did you find out about that?
Your beautiful marketing person just sent me an email.
Really?
Just got it.
That's awesome.
I know.
That's gonna be a fun event, actually. I mean, people don't know about it. We're gonna announce it today.
All right, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, it's okay. That's awesome.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself.
No problem. All right, let me try to connect to Facebook. You know, I'll tell you guys something funny. I was thinking today, I mean, this is a joke, okay? So I'm not even, hello, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. Another town hall meeting today. It seems like we're all going from meetings to meetings to meetings. So today, we're going to do three things. We're going to start with us providing you with some information in regards to what we know from Medicare right now in regards to telehealth. There is just a simple update I'm going to give you on that. It's nothing earth-shaking, but it could be. And then we'll give you some updates in regards specifically to the forgiveness part of the PPP. And I'll tell you where these updates come from. And I'll get you an actual copy of these updates. And actually, we have Bob Kowalik also, who's going to help on that in some clarifications. And the third part of today's presentation will have to do with compliance in all of this picture. And Mary Dolong has a few slides that she's going to share with us. Actually, it's one specific slide, I think, that she's going to share with us. Okay, so first of all, let me see if I have a poll. I don't have a new poll, but can everybody just type in the chat section if you have received the PPP money, type a yes and no. If you have more than one companies and you received in one but not in another, you can put a yes and a no. So we see a lot of yeses. We see quite a few no's too.
I can't find it.
All right, I'm gonna mute you guys again and then we have to unmute. Told receiving this week. Okay, so I would say from what I see here, we have kind of a 50-50 type of situation. 50% of the people have received PPP money and 50% have not received. All right, we'll get to the PPP in a moment. But first of all, I would like to share with you what specific news we have about Medicare from APTA. So I was in communication just recently with both Justin Elliott and Cara Gaynor from APTA because last week, if you guys remember, we made for first time out of this town hall meeting that Medicare was about, CMS was about to announce that they would fully cover telehealth for physical therapy. So this is the update we have. And this update was late yesterday, okay? Less than 20 hours ago. So the update is this. The rule is still pending with OMB for review, but it could be released any day now. As soon as it shows as having completed review, we'll know it's about to be released. We are hopeful it will be released by end of this week. So basically what this email is telling us from APTA that there is an expectation that hopefully by tomorrow, Friday, we are going to have some word from CMS, or at least there will be a completed review designation, which will then lead to the subsequent announcement from CMS. From our side, at this point, we have started seeing Medicare patients. We are not billing Medicare. I'm not advising anybody to do anything. I'm telling you what we do. We are holding all the Medicare bills because it is our expectation. It is not a fact. It is not a promise. It is not an announcement. It is an expectation that we have that Medicare will retroactively reimburse physical therapy for telehealth from some specific date. I don't know what that date would be, but we believe that it will be a retroactive decision. Somebody is saying here that they have received today their first payment from telehealth. Heather, you should tell us if it was an e-visit, because most likely that's what it was. Probably it was an e-visit that you got paid. Although I received also yesterday communication from someone from West Coast that somehow they got paid. I think it was Arizona. They got paid from their intermediary, their local intermediary, that they got paid full telehealth payment from their Medicare carrier using a 02 designation. This is what 02 place of service. So 02 is what, guys? Bob, 02 is what? Mary? Bob?
It's place of service for telehealth.
Okay, so they got paid full services, and again, the expectation also regarding parity of payment rates for Medicare is that it will be in a federal level parity across the board in the United States. At least this has been my understanding from the communications with Justin and Cara from the very beginning. There has never been any communication that there will be no parity. So I am expecting that that would be. So Heather is telling us also, we did a private room session, a Zoom session, built 2 TheraX units, specified place of service 02, and were reimbursed for 97110, 2 units, full payment. So this is, and can you tell us, Heather, which state are you in? Can you write to us, Heather, what state are you in? She is in Nashville, Tennessee. So is it Novitas, your intermediary there? Who's your intermediary in Nashville, in Tennessee? Noridian? I'm not getting it. No, Availity is your clearinghouse. Your Medicare, it's okay, no worries. Okay, so this is basically the update we have from APTA, that essentially we should have by the end of this week, by tomorrow, essentially that information. Okay, so that's all for Medicare. If anybody has any question about that, you can just unmute and ask for it, or you can text it or anything. Now, let me ask either Mary or Bob, do you guys have any other information other than what I just said, specifically about reimbursement of the telehealth codes?
I do not.
Okay.
you know, that is up to date though.
Okay.
To me, the question is about parity, and hopefully they'll put it through and authorize PTs to provide the service and at parity with, you know, in-clinic reimbursement for the same procedure codes, and that would be a good thing.
Yeah, that would be a very good thing. So before we jump into the PPP, I want to let you know, I don't know how many of you know the fact that the second package, the 3.5 package that was released, right, that includes the PPP money, also made available money to healthcare providers, including physical therapists, which basically the HHS is supposed to release to physical therapists, including to healthcare providers, including physical therapists, in a similar capacity that they did the previous time that they released funds, and many of you received already. Now, I don't know if anyone did receive additional funds other than the first release of funds that was sent from HHS 1 to 2 weeks ago. But I called in 3 consecutive days. I called Monday, I called Tuesday, I called today, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I called today again, HHS, to ask them specifically if they start releasing the new HHS money. So what they told me is that they have absolutely no information right now about releasing additional HHS money. However, in order for you to receive this additional money, you're not going to receive it automatically. You have to apply, or you should have applied already actually, through their the HHS website, where you have to first of all claim that you have received the first release of funds, and then go through a process where you are submitting also your tax return, the tax return of your business, for them to consider releasing to you additional funding. Okay, so that is what I can tell you about that. So,
Dimi, let me
yes,
let me add something to that.
Sure.
So what Dimi just referred to is $20 billion under Provider Relief Fund. That was the second half of $50 billion that was approved in the first round. So on April 10th, lots of providers got an ACH deposit. It was a surprise in their bank account. Not everybody got it on April 10th. What they distributed was 6.2% of 2019's Medicare revenue. Total annual revenue was like $484 billion. They took 30 billion of that as 6.2%, and then they divided that proportionately based on how much of that each provider was paid. The second 20 billion to total the 50 billion that was approved is what you just referred to. It's like the second phase of the thing that was already happening, and the process is different. You do have to go ask for it. Now, in addition to that, they, in 3.5, they approved $75 billion for healthcare providers. And that is a very convoluted, very compartmentalized, very complicated distribution of funds going lots of places in healthcare. And that is a whole different thing than what you just talked about.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what to tell anyone to expect with regards to that. But I want to make sure that you're clear that what Dimi's talking about is phase 2 of the provider relief funds, the $50 billion that was approved. It's the $20 billion dollar part, and the terms and conditions in your attestation that you do for that second round is slightly different than the first round. 90% the same, but they're looking at 2018 revenue in round 2. And as Dimi said, you do have to go in. You go into the first round section and indicate what you were paid, and it takes you through. There's been a lot of confusion about what link do you go to, and because it appears as though you're going into the thing you've already gotten first. And so any clarification anybody that's been through that process could provide would be helpful, because there's a lot of confusion around you're going after the second round of it, but it seems like it's taking you to the first round first. And not being someone with a provider tax ID today, I can't actually go through the process and from firsthand experience say how that went. But there's a lot of confusion out there about it seems like you're being taken down the wrong path when indeed you are not.
So anyway, I mean, I would say it doesn't hurt anyone to apply for it and apply fast. I saw that Bob put the link.
That link is to the main HHS page, yep, from which you can get the link to this, so that this is ground central, or the hub for where you start is the link that I put in there.
All right, now back to PPP. This process now started for submission of new applications on Monday around 10:30 a.m. System crashed, but then it got fixed again. And no matter what, essentially within the first 2 days from the moment they started releasing, already they had 52 billion were out of the window. Yesterday, SBA at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they stopped taking applications for that window from big banks like Citibank and Chase and Bank of America, and they were taking applications only from small banks. Earlier this morning, they reopened for the larger banks. Based on the calculations Kostas and I made yesterday, we believe that by Monday, at the latest, by this coming Monday, essentially these funds from package 3.5, they will be exhausted. If it's not Monday, maybe it will be Tuesday, but that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a window Monday to Tuesday. Now.
Demi, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I'd like to add something, and I have a slide with this information on it, but I didn't send it, so we can do that later. But one thing that we do have is a phone number. Have you shared that with anyone?
Phone number for
United, because they're the ones that are supposed to deliver the payments. So when CMS partnered with them, if you haven't received your payment or you want to find out if you're eligible, you're going to be calling United Health Provider Relations, and the phone number, if people want it, I'll tell you what it is. It is 866-569-3522. The other thing that has been stressed is that set up a direct deposit with them, because the paper checks have yet to be released for the first distribution, and that's supposed to be sometime in May, which of course is just a week, but it could be further in May. So set up a direct deposit, and you can do that by calling United Health as well at that number.
Good. So if you go also, guys, to savephysicaltherapy.com and you go to resources, You're going to see exactly that information, as well as we have information about the document that I am about to share with you right now. So some financial institutions, including Citibank, have released now information and clarifications about the forgiveness program. I am going to share with you in a moment. Of course, I have to find it first.
While you're looking for that, can I make a quick statement?
Yes, go ahead.
The 321 billion that was approved under 3.5 in the second round for PPP was partitioned. So 60 billion of it went to banks of certain asset sizes. 30 billion was under 10, 30 billion of it went to banks under 10 billion, 30 billion of it went to banks between 10 and 50 billion. So the burn rate on round 2 is not going to be the same exact kind of way that round 1 happened, because there is money specifically put into buckets that only small banks and small companies can get access to. So don't think that, you know, like it all ran out at the same time in round 1. It's not going to all run out at the same time in round 2 because it was bucketed.
Somebody is asking if they have applied with Chase, should they reapply with a smaller bank? Look, this is an interesting question, and I'll tell you what makes the question interesting. When you sign the final document, that final document makes you sign that you must not apply with another bank, okay? So this is my opinion, and this is not only my opinion, this is actually something that we have done in some cases, because we have 5 different companies, right? So if we have submitted, let's say, if you submit, let's say, to a bank, the information in a preliminary format, but you have not received the final official application on DocuSign, which you have to sign, because some of these big banks, that's what they do. They don't allow you initially. Citibank, Chase, even Bank of America, they don't allow you to submit the initial application, the 5, whatever it's called, the number of the application is, right? But they,
2483.
What's the name? What's the number?
2483.
2483. They have you fill out information or answer questions, and then later on, they put that information in an application, they get you DocuSigns to sign and all that. If you got to the point to just submit initial information without having filed a final application, then I would say it doesn't hurt, because you are not violating something. You're not signing anything that says, I'm not filing with another financial institution. But if you got to a point where you are actually filing with, that you are actually signing that final document, you're certifying that you haven't applied twice. And this is just my viewpoint. So I don't know anybody.
I think that's good. I think that's good advice. You know, the big banks burn through their funds faster than the small banks. The big banks turn off the application process. The first round, you know, Wells Fargo cut everyone off, you know, a couple days in. Chase did the same thing. You know, I think all of the horror stories I've heard are coming out of the big bank world, and the little banks seem to be pushing stuff through. They had trouble early on in round 1, but most of what I'm seeing pushed through right now is little bank activity. They seem to be getting the job done, you know, quicker. So if you're not in some kind of legal scenario where you can't and you can change course, I think changing course would be probably strategically a good move.
Thank you. So let me show you now the document. This is the document. This document was issued by Citibank. This is the first time that I see something from a financial institution in such extensiveness that discusses forgiveness. I have posted this document in the resource section of, right here, of savephysicaltherapy.com resources. Okay, so along with a webinar from APTA that discusses stimulus package updates, okay? But this is the document. If you click this, it's Citibank PPP Forgiveness Guidelines. So in summary, okay? So what does this say? This says that you have to utilize 75% of the money for payroll and only 25% for forgivable expenses other than payroll. Now, Kostas, he was mentioning to me on some additional reading he did at the International Franchise Association resources, was the following. If, let's say, you receive $100,000, all right, what is that 25%? Is it $25,000? And the answer is not necessarily. So here is how it goes. If you received $100,000 and they decide that your forgivable amount will be $80,000 in total, then 25% of the $80,000 can be used for things other than the payroll. Do I make sense? I hope I do make sense.
Yeah, as long as those things are allowable uses.
Correct, allowable usage. And the factors that will determine, as you see, and that was also previously discussed, the factors that will determine your forgivable amount has to do with full-time employee headcount. Now, a question that have been asked time and time again is this. How will they determine the head count? Will they determine the head count by the full-time equivalency that you put in your application, which was approved by SBA, or they are going to go into your payroll record of here, of February 15, 2020. And my understanding is that they will go to the payroll record of February 15, 2020, and they will compare that with the payroll record of June 30th to make that determination. And Bob, any clarification to what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes, because this is very confusing. The time period, there's another time period that matters, and that's February 15th, 2020 to April 26th, 2020. So during that time period, because they realized that a lot of employers already laid people off, already cut wage, already cut FTEs, they're basically saying that anything you did during that time period in terms of reducing your workforce is not counted against you, even if those date ranges are within your 8-week period for loan forgiveness. So you have a free pass in terms of reduction during these dates. So any FTE count is not going to be counted during this time period if it was reduced already. Now, after April 26th, so as of now, as of 3 days ago, if you lay someone off, lose somebody, reduce FTE or wage, it is going to work against you in terms of forgiveness. And it's super important to understand that there are three relevant calculations. Your loan amount, which is already determined by your 12-month prior to getting a loan, what your most recent 12-month payroll costs were, your rent, your utility cost. The things that went into determining loan amount was 2.5 times those allowable use spends. Okay, now you have your 8 weeks, and you're allowed to spend money on the things that went into the calculation of determining what your loan amount is. Now, the loan amount was calculated at 2.5 times, but you basically have two times to spend it, right? So it's actually a little bit more difficult to spend 100% of the loan in the 8 weeks, because it was based on, as everybody following me, it was essentially based on 10 weeks worth of time, right? So you have the loan amount, then you have what you spend the loan on during the 8 weeks after you got your funds deposited in your paycheck, and that's or in your bank account. That was another area that was not clear, was whether or not it was your SBA loan approval date started your 8 weeks. It's the date your money hit your bank account starts your 8 weeks. So you spend during that 8 weeks. Then once that 8 weeks is done, they're going to compare your FTE during that 8 weeks, excluding February 15th to April 26th. Okay, they're going to compare the FTE during that 8-week period to either February 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2019, or January and February of 2020, whichever one had a lower FTE number. And that's how your FTE component of your forgiveness percent is going to be calculated. Now you have a wage comparison, which also goes into that calculation, but not as a percent, as a dollar amount. And so to the extent that you reduced anyone's wage below 75% of normal, those dollars are subtracted from your forgivable amount. So you take wage reduction dollars and FTE comparison percent and apply that to what you actually spent, and that determines what's forgivable. And so it's three completely different scenarios that all go into this, and a actual forgiveness application doesn't even exist yet. And so what I'm doing, right, is I am taking every single day of my 8 weeks and allocating allowable use cost on a per day basis. So that during that 8 weeks, I have exactly what was spent on a day-by-day basis for payroll costs, rent, utilities, the allowable use spends. I'm looking at this as, you know what, well, you pay rent, let's say your rent's due on the 5th of the month. Well, that paid rent for the whole month. So I'm taking my rent allocation and applying it every single day. You have a payroll expense that lands in your bank account on a certain date, but you incur payroll obligations every single day as people work. So I'm going through this exercise of building a workbook on what my spend looks like every single day. And that's what I'm going to be taking to my bank and saying, all right, this is what my forgiveness should be based on, because it is completely confused still exactly how they're going to do this process on the back end. And if the front end is any indicator of what the back end is going to be like, it's basically going to come down to whatever your bank approves within the obvious restrictions of the SBA rules. The problem is there's a lot of SBA rules that are not obvious and that are not defined. Things, for example, the 25%, as Dimi said, when you spend, you have to spend at least 75% of the spend on payroll costs for that to be forgiven. That whole 25%, 75% isn't even in the law. It was added by SBA after the law was passed. So they still have, you know, weeks now to decide how they're going to clarify some of these things, and you know, any day clarifications, guidance could come out, changes, new documents that say things that weren't even part of the thing could still come out. But I think, you know, as far as the strategy goes, looking at every day within the 8-week period as what kind of cost did I incur at this time, that's my strategy.
Awesome. Somebody asked also in regards to insurance, if insurance will be forgivable. Well, this is
health insurance benefit cost.
Health insurance benefits, yeah. And it says including insurance premiums.
Yeah, on health insurance benefits.
So that I don't think, and again, I'm not sure because there's no clarification, but I don't necessarily think that if you pay your life insurance with that they will cover it. I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
It's a labor-related cost.
Yeah. If it is though your unemployment insurance or something like that, that most likely will be you'll be able to get forgiveness on. There is a.
I think if it's a benefit to your employee, that's part of your benefit package, you could have an argument for it being included. It's going to come, but it's not clear, and it's going to come down to what your bank allows.
There is a question from someone. Christina says, I have 2 therapists that are unwilling to come back. How will that affect things? I will spend all the payroll money with different staff and meet the FTE matching number. I mean, if you meet the FTE matching number and you meet the payroll spending number, that's 75%, it is irrelevant if 2 therapists are not going to come because you did something. You either made, I don't know, you made 4 part-timers that they were working 20 hours a week. You made them now full-timers, so they work 40 hours a week. So the FTE is the same as if you had 2 full-time therapists.
Start with what your comparison period is going to be. What is the FTE number that you have to maintain in order to get the maximum forgiveness? So you have 2 periods that are used. A year ago, February 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2019. What was your FTE, your average FTE on a 40-hour-a-week being a full-time FTE? That's what they're using. Some people think they use 35 hours a week for full-time, you know, for benefits purposes or whatever. That's not the math they're using. They're using 40 hours a week. It's not your definition of what an FTE is. It's 40 hours a week. And they're looking at pay periods being a 2-week typical pay period. So they're saying, what was your FTE back then during that time range per pay period on average, or January and February of 2020? If you were growing and hiring, then February 2020, you're gonna have more FTEs than you did a year ago. Then you'll use the year ago. If you were already shrinking, and a year ago FTE was larger than January and February, you'll use January and February's FTE. So know what your FTE comparison number is, and then look at whether or not your 2 short FTEs on PTs even matters. If, depending upon what your situation is, Maybe it matters a lot, maybe it doesn't matter at all, but know that comparison FTE first. And then there's nothing about this that says that the FTEs have to be applied to the same people. So you can add time to other people, increase their FTEs. But keep in mind that 3 moving parts of this, right? The middle part is the spend. So if you don't have the people working, you don't have the payroll costs to spend on, even if your forgiveness calculation is 100%, it's going to be applied to a smaller number. So maybe that FTE reduction impacts you in the spend, in the wage amount that you're actually spending during the 8 weeks. So if that's the case, you could manipulate that by paying other people more, as long as you don't exceed an annual run rate of $100,000, to make sure that that wage is there. So you can, you can manipulate the variables in any way that's allowable to maximize your forgiveness.
Okay, very good. So you guys can continue putting your questions in the chat portion of this. However, I'm going to turn over right now to Mary to discuss the compliance slide that she has for us today. Mary, you can share your screen. Oops. Are you there twice, maybe? Let me see.
I am.
All right, you are twice. Let me see which one I can mute. I'll mute one of them. Can you speak, please, right now? Okay, wait. Okay, can you speak? All right, we have to unmute this. Can you please speak?
Hello.
Can you please speak again?
1 second.
Oh boy. Okay, we have one of the 2 that you have there. We have to just turn them off. Let me kick out this one. Okay, I'm gonna remove one of the 2.
Okay.
How about now?
That's good. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, let me get out of here. Okay, so I need to give you my screen, but I got to get, here we are. Let's go back here. Okay, you can hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. How about if I put this in slide format? Okay, so there's just a couple of things I want to say before I get into the compliance end. And one, I don't know how many of you are aware that we can indeed bill e-visits multiple times throughout the episode of care. Is that something that y'all have talked about previously?
Not on this call, but but still a 7-day period, correct? But you can have more than one 7-day period.
But you can have multiple 7-day periods.
Yeah.
CMS just released that. So I have like an example here. You could do the 3rd through the 9th, one of those G2 codes, and then you could start on the 13th or the 12th or the 11th, whatever, and do another 7 days and until the episode of care is completed. So that's a positive in how we would use the e-visit. A lot of people were trying to teach exercise, but then didn't have the opportunity to check whether the patient was doing well with that. So I think we're okay there. I just want to, let me see, we've covered that. The other thing that I think is also important for you to know when we're looking at private payers, that they are not allowing you to use out-of-network collections. So you cannot balance bill the patient. You will be treated as an in-network provider, and you cannot collect from the patients, even though there shouldn't be a co-share. That they're waiving that in most situations, but you cannot use the out-of-network fees. So just so you know that.
Mary, can you clarify that waiving the patient's co-share means that the insurance company's paying that versus the providers taking a reduction in reimbursement?
It is supposed to be the insurance company is absorbing it. not the provider. So that is what we understand to be the interpretation. The other thing that we're seeing, and this is what I'm hearing from clients, is it's kind of been a trial and error situation. They'll bill something, it gets denied, then they bill a different way and whatever. These are the three main things. They're not looking at the payer's allowable codes. So we're talking about non-Medicare, okay, for telehealth. They are not using the proper modifiers, and they're not using the proper place of service. I am seeing a little more consistency with the biggies, with United Healthcare, with Aetna and Cigna, but they can choose to use different modifiers, different place of service. So you do want to check with those particular payers to see what they allow as far as CPT codes and what modifiers in place of service they expect.
Yeah, and that's very confusing, and it's why you have to be super good at doing the right kind of eligibility check when you do your verification to get.
That is correct. That is correct. The APTA does have a very nice table, and they're putting as many payers as they possibly can into that table as far as what they expect, codes they allow, what modifiers and that type of thing. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to look at that website. I don't have the link real handy, but I can also get that to you, Demi, if you'd like it. I don't hear you.
Let's do that. Provide the link, and we're going to put it on the resource page of savephysicaltherapy.com.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so we talked about the OSHA compliance as part of the SBA loans. And, it's a short period of time when you sign the loan. If you've got your money, you're supposed to be in compliance. You're supposed to be in compliance the entire period of the loan. But one thing you can do is to take advantage of OSHA and the feds relaxing some of the requirements. That does not mean you do not have to have them, at least eventually. But if you show a good faith effort to take care of the patients, to take care of your staff, then you're more likely to get a less heavy slap on the hands. And these are the things that you could do in a weekend. You could assign to someone, and this could be their task to get it done. But if you do these things, you will show a concerted effort in trying to fulfill the intent of bloodborne pathogens and hazard communication in the general duty clause. General duty clause being a safe workplace for your employees. So education, well, everybody here that's doing this, they're working, they're being educated. All of the seminars and webinars and whatever that are going on, anything that you attend, your staff attends, you want to document it. You want to do at least bullet points on the subject matter. If you have handouts, attach it. They will be asking for education because they want to know that your staff understands hazards that relate to their job now because of this situation, which are different than previously. And they also understand how to personally comply as well as to aid the patient in compliance. They'll be watching if they come in, and we've already seen the people on the web who said, I've been surveyed. You want to make sure that you are demonstrating what they are saying, good hand washing, good sanitizing technique and frequency, that you have PPE. Now, I understand the problem with the mask, but they're now becoming available, but minimally, you need to have masks and gloves. There are a lot more pieces of PPE that typically need to be available in your clinic, but right now the focus is mask and gloves, and possibly the impervious gowns, depending upon the condition of the patients you're treating. That you are doing your screening upon entrance for your patients and your employees, usually twice a day. So you're going to be asking the questions, you're going to be screening for temperature, those types of things. Social distancing needs to be absolutely displayed in your clinic. So whether you pushing the chairs out of the waiting room, you move the treatment tables, you're limiting the number of people in your clinic, all of that needs to be obvious and complied with. Respiratory etiquette, we know what that is, so they'll be watching for that. That you have assembled and, have a spill kit ready and accessible. For those of you who don't know what goes in the spill kit, you could always email me. We could send you the sheets and handouts that go with that. You also have to have a sharp container. It's not contingent upon whether you use needles. It is a requirement. Biohazard containers, I understand most of us in outpatient, the outpatient world don't deal with blood or bloodborne pathogens regularly, but in this case, a biohazard bag might be the avenue you take when you're disposing of Kleenex and those types of things that someone has coughed into or sneezed or whatever. You want to be careful as far as what you put in biohazard bags because medical waste is expensive to dispose of. Having hand sanitizers available throughout the clinic. If you can mount them, that's better. That's less hand contact on the container itself. You are supposed to post hazardous substances. Everybody says all we have is disinfectant, but I would suggest that you look at the back of the products that you have in your clinic, and if it says, if inhale, do this, if splashed in eye or on skin or whatever, any warnings means it's a hazardous product. And it should say so. It should be labeled with the current hazard label, but unfortunately many aren't. Proper labeling of your containers that you move from a large container to a small container. Housekeeping, that is an incredibly important thing. My brother just came out of surgery yesterday and he said, I've never felt so comfortable in an environment because of all the cleaning that's going on. And that does help everyone, but if an auditor is observing to see that you have a housekeeping schedule, the things that you do at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year, but also that those are logged. So when you do the end of the day cleaning, that's marked. No one would expect you to mark off something in between patients unless you are having some problems complying with that. The sound cleaning and disinfecting, we continue to get the question, why can't we use reusable cloth, like a washcloth or something, to disinfect with? When you walk in a clinic, at least when I go in for site visits, there's a bottle of disinfectant that has a handwritten label, cleaner, no information, no hazardous warnings, or something like that, and a washcloth that is used from table to table, from bite to all the things patients touch. Just imagine if you're moving, contaminated, viruses and bacteria and whatever along. I understand the cloth has disinfectant on it, but it might not be thoroughly absorbed. So we suggest you use paper towels. If you can't get to them, then you need to make certain that you use that reusable washcloth on a particular patient, finish that up, put it in the wash. Moving from table to table and surface to surface is really unacceptable with this particular virus. And any signs that you can post, they're free from the CDC. All you have to do is query CDC communication and you can get every type of poster you ever wanted in your life, and they like to see posters because it's a reminder for everybody, for the patient, for the employees. And if you do those things, I think you would show a good faith effort of compliance, and that's what they're looking for right now. That doesn't mean you don't have to have that bloodborne pathogen and has communication program. We can help y'all with that if that's something that you need to do, but you definitely want to see if you can demonstrate, again, a good faith effort to keep your employees and your patients safe.
Mary, thank you very much for that. And a quick question, is there does everyone have to comply on that, or there is a size, a business size that this would become required?
The bloodborne pathogen standards, the only exception would be if you were owner only.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Everything else, if you have a half FTE plus yourself, you are to comply with bloodborne pathogens and HAZCOM.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, I want to let you know at this point of a couple of things. The first thing I would like to let you know is that our PT for Heroes, OT, and SLT for Heroes campaigns are doing absolutely fantastic. And we have so many of you who are been posting videos and patient stories and success stories and what you guys are doing. And so many practices around the country have joined this effort to provide free telehealth services to our healthcare providers in the front lines of the COVID epidemic. And what we have done at this point, we have put together this absolutely amazing event that will be taking place during Nurses Week. Nurses Week is from May 6th through the 13th. So on Monday, the 12th of May, we are putting together this town hall meeting at 6 p.m. Eastern. I am putting here the registration for you to register right away. And this event will be essentially an event to honor these people. We're going to send you guys emails. We'll ask you to bring videos, to bring stories, to share the stories during the event. And let's bring together the entire healthcare community, invite physicians, invite nurses, invite other healthcare professionals who are in the front lines of COVID-19. We're going to show some videos. It's going to be a really great event to bring our togetherness together. Oh my God, is that oxymoron? Is that called oxymoron? Like our togetherness together and create something really beautiful. Also, every Thursday, we have this town hall meeting. And starting next Thursday, we will be spending the first 10 minutes of this meeting to discuss any updates, any questions, any major topics. The first 10-15 minutes, it will be updates, anything that we have for you. But for the next 8 weeks, every week for half an hour, we will be discussing a specific topic about the rebuilding of your practice. The things that are important right now, rebuilding our practices. And we're going to be bringing our ideas, but also please get your ideas as well. And bring them in these meetings. These meetings are supposed to be town halls. So we're supposed to be sharing. We're supposed to be exchanging ideas. Basically, that is what I wanted to discuss with you. Also, Mary's information, as well as Bob Kawolik's information, they are both in the resource area of safephysicaltherapy.com.
And Demi, that handout, the checklist that I have, that is in there as well.
Okay, fantastic. Any updates about, also before I talk about that, let me just mention also that Mondays and Thursdays, please join also this amazing roundtable that takes place from the side of Tim Mantis. He's putting this together every Monday and Wednesday with really very cool topics. They were talking about cash flow today. They were talking about marketing on Monday. So Tim, please do me a favor and post how someone can join your Facebook group and join your roundtable. Costa, anything from you?
Nothing more than what is been said already. However, it is very important, guys, to see the future, because PPP is important, the money is important, but just money is, this is a loan. That's how I see it, just another loan, and you gotta treat it like that. But try to figure out how to move forward and build a new as a practice, because there's so many details that we have to start incorporating, and somehow it's gonna change the way we treat patients. And of course, we're gonna talk about this in the future.
Bob, go ahead and share, please. Share, please, something in the chat, or talk about what that is. I'm just checking something. There might be something important to share. So let me just.
Yeah, so I've created 3 tools that are free. The more people that put data in here, the more valuable it becomes for everybody. We're aggregating data and sharing it with everyone who participates. The first one, COVIDBridgeSurvey.com, is kind of a qualitative state of the industry, what you feel about your practice and how it's going for you. It's your perceptions, your sentiment. It's not a math model. The second one is a very specific math model on what 2020 looks for you. It builds in all of the variables around PPP loan, allowable use, spend, forgiveness calculations, makes you do a projection, what you think's going to happen for the rest of the year in terms of your production, you know, what your normal patient volumes, how it's going to look compared to normal, builds an entire cash flow for you, and gives you very specific math and financial information around what you believe your model is going to be look like, you know, or your reality will look like for the rest of the year. The third one is specific to revenue cycle, because we do know that the fundamental weak point that our industry has is not, our operating margins are too weak. We have too thin of an operating margin, and you really do have to be focused as part of your strategy now for getting back to business and surviving, is how do you maximize revenue per visit, you know, within all of the compliant legal ways to do that, but not the least of which is not giving money away and not leaking money due to ineffective process. So we look specifically at revenue cycle variables and how you might be, you know, where there could be opportunities to help improve your margin by doing things a little smarter way going forward. So these are tools that are out there available, free. They're just there to help people try to get some perspective on things that are important variables that have impact on what the rest of this year is going to look like for you, and to help provide some kind of context and information around, you know, the scenario that you're in. So those are up there for you to participate with.
Thank you very much, Bob, for sharing. And Mary, thank you so much once again for the awesome information. Thank both of you. I thought that I was going to have some breaking news to give here, but because of someone who just emailed me, and I thought that I'll be able to tell you something about Medicare. But unfortunately, it was different than I expected. So
only break it if it's good news, Dean.
yeah, no, it's not bad news. It was totally relevant topic actually. So,
Okay.
all right. So yeah, if something breaks into Medicare by the end of this week or early next week, I do promise to you that we're gonna have definitely APTA representation next Thursday to start this meeting. So. Once again, thank you all. Please, those of you who haven't already gone to pt4heroes.com, please go and do what you need to do there. We'll see you guys next Thursday. Thank you guys for everything you do. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.